It was a Friday night, and the clock was almost midnight when Laura, a 20-year-old university student, found herself at the busy bus station of a small town. She had just finished a long day of classes and was eager to return home, where her comfortable bed awaited her. The night bus was parked on platform 5, ready to set off on its journey along the dark road that connected the city to its final destination. Laura, exhausted, got on board and chose a seat near the window. The bus was relatively empty, with just a few passengers scattered around, all of whom looked as tired as she did. As the bus left the bus station and entered the night, Laura relaxed in her seat, watching the dark landscape passing by outside the window. The city lights gradually dimmed, leaving familiarity behind and entering a dark, winding road surrounded by dense forest. The driver, a middle-aged man with a tired face, drove the bus with a serious expression. Laura noticed that he frequently checked the rearview mirror and seemed worried. The atmosphere inside the bus was silent. Only the gentle sound of the engine and the rustling of the trees could be heard. As time passed, Laura began to feel a strange sense of restlessness. She tried to ignore it at first, chalking it up to exhaustion after a long, stressful day. However, as the road progressed and the forest closed in around the bus, the feeling of discomfort only increased. Laura looked around and noticed that the other passengers also seemed uneasy. Some dozed with their heads bobbing, while others looked nervously out the window. She tried to concentrate on her book, but the restless feeling wouldn't leave her. Curious, Laura decided to get up and go to the driver to ask what was happening. She approached him cautiously and noticed that he was tense, his hands tightly gripping the steering wheel. "Sorry to bother you, but are you okay?" she asked, worried. The driver looked at her with tired eyes and sighed. "No, I'm not okay. There's something wrong tonight, something I can't explain. I feel like we're being watched by something sinister." The driver's words sent shivers down Laura's spine. She tried to smile and comfort him, but she couldn't help but feel that there was something strange happening on that night's journey. Returning to her seat, Laura looked out the window and saw the shadows of the trees stretching over the dark road. A feeling of uneasiness came over her, and she wondered if the driver was right. Something about that night felt wrong, something she couldn't explain. As the bus moved into the night, the feeling of unease among the passengers continued to grow. The sounds of the forest around the vehicle became more intense, as if nature was conspiring to create an ominous environment. The bus's headlights revealed twisted trees and shadows that seemed to take on a life of their own. Laura looked out the window and saw something that made her freeze in terror. A dark, indistinct figure was running alongside the bus, keeping the same pace. His eyes glowed with a menacing, savage light. It was as if something supernatural was chasing the bus that damn night. With her heart beating wildly, Laura looked around and realized that the other passengers were also seeing the shadowy figure. Panic began to spread throughout the bus, and murmurs of fear and disbelief filled the air. The driver, now visibly distraught, accelerated the bus in an attempt to escape the invisible threat. But no matter how fast he drove, the shadowy figure continued to pursue them relentlessly. The passengers, increasingly terrified, began to ask questions and exchange theories about what they were witnessing. Some suggested it was a wild animal, while others believed it was a vengeful spirit. No one had a definitive answer, but everyone agreed that something was terribly wrong that night. As the bus moved forward in the darkness, the shadowy figure seemed to get closer and closer. Its ominous presence loomed over the vehicle, creating an atmosphere of terror that was impossible to ignore. Laura, in her attempt to remain calm, gripped the seat tightly, her eyes fixed on the shadowy figure that relentlessly pursued her. She felt that something was deeply wrong on that night's journey, something that could not be explained by the laws of reality she knew. And as the bus moved into the night, they were all at the mercy of the unknown. As the bus sped along the dark road, the shadowy figure persisted in its relentless pursuit. The passengers were petrified, and the atmosphere inside the bus was filled with fear and tension. It was as if they were trapped in a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. Laura, still watching the shadowy figure through the window, couldn't help but wonder what or who was chasing them. She tried to share her concerns with the other passengers, but fear had silenced most of them. Some cried silently, while others held their protective objects, such as crosses and amulets. The driver, determined to keep everyone safe, continued to speed up the bus. However, the shadowy figure seemed to be getting closer and closer, as if it was determined to catch up to them. It was then that Laura remembered a story her grandmother used to tell about a supernatural entity that haunted those dark roads at night. She mentioned something about a prayer of protection that could ward off evil. Desperate to find a solution, Laura decided to share this information with the other passengers. "My grandmother used to tell a story about this road," she began, her voice shaking. "She said that there is a prayer of protection that can keep us safe from evil. If we all recite it together, perhaps we can ward off this terrible thing." Some passengers looked at her skeptically, but the fear in their eyes was undeniable. They were willing to try anything to escape the invisible threat that was chasing them. Laura began to recite the prayer, and slowly the other passengers joined her. The words of the prayer were ancient and powerful, and as they were repeated in unison, a sense of serenity began to fill the bus. The shadowy figure, still visible through the windows, seemed to retreat slightly. As the prayer continued, the shadowy figure made guttural, anguish sounds, as if it were being repelled by some superior force. The fear that once gripped them began to subside, replaced by a sense of hope. Finally, when the prayer came to an end, the shadowy figure disappeared completely, leaving behind only the echo of his agonized screams. The passengers, relieved and grateful, exchanged shy smiles and sighs of relief. The driver, who had witnessed the entire scene, let out a deep sigh. "Thank you for that. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't shared that prayer. It looks like we escaped the worst." As the bus continued its journey into the night, passengers shared their experiences and stories of encounters with the unknown. They had faced the supernatural together and come out the other side. The feeling of togetherness and the memory of that frightening night would remain with them for the rest of their lives. However, one question persisted in the minds of Laura and the other passengers. What was the shadowy figure that had chased them? They would never receive a definitive answer, but one thing was certain: that night, terrifying and otherworldly, would never be forgotten, and the darkness would guard its dark secrets for all eternity. With the shadowy figure finally gone, palpable relief spread throughout the bus. The passengers thanked each other, still feeling disbelief at what they had witnessed. The fear, which had been a constant presence, began to gradually disappear, replaced by a feeling of triumph. The driver, now calmer, continued to drive into the night, and the scenery outside gradually returned to normal. The trees and forests seemed less threatening, and the feeling of restlessness lessened. It was as if the evil presence that had pursued them had given up its search. Passengers shared their experiences and personal stories about the supernatural. Some believed the shadowy figure was a vengeful spirit, while others thought it was something more sinister, perhaps a demonic entity. Theories varied, but everyone agreed that that night had been extraordinary and frightening. Laura, thoughtful, looked out the window as the bus continued its journey. She wondered if the shadowy figure was a real supernatural entity, or just a collective illusion caused by fear. The mystery would remain unsolved, but one thing was certain: that nighttime journey would never be forgotten, and the darkness would hold its dark secrets for all eternity. As the bus approached its final destination, the relief of being safe filled the hearts of the passengers. They had faced the unknown together and survived. The night's journey had been terrifying and challenging, but it had also brought them together in a unique way. When they finally arrived at their destination bus station, passengers disembarked with expressions of gratitude and relief. They said goodbye with a sense of camaraderie, knowing they would share a story that no one else could fully understand. Laura, still shaken by the experience, thanked the driver for his care and courage that night. He just nodded and wished her a safe journey home. As Laura walked towards her house, she looked back, seeing the bus disappear into the night. She knew that the story of that night's journey would remain with her forever. Although the mystery of the shadowy figure was never solved, the experience had changed the way she saw the world. Laura knew there was something beyond human understanding, something mysterious and inexplicable. The night journey had taught her to respect the unknown and never underestimate the power of the supernatural. The darkness held its dark secrets, but it also revealed the courage and unity of those who faced fear together. And so, the night became a haunting memory, but also a life lesson that Laura would never forget.